Hey y'all, Megan here with HneBadger Cosplay, and today I wanted to talk about how I go about designing my original cosplay designs. Okay, first things first, I want to clarify what I mean by original design. Now, this could mean a whole bunch of different things. So you can either make some decisions based off of changing specific parts of the costume or the design for comfort or function. You could do a gender bending cosplay where you're taking a male character and envisioning them on how they would be designed if they were female, or vice versa. Inspired by designs where they don't have maybe a human form or a casual or a formal design. So that is something that you can be inspired by the original character and then create something new, or a fully original character, someone or something made by you from short stories. That can be from maybe your D&D character, but a fully original character is not inspired by or pulling specific aspects from a character. I'm primarily today going to talk about inspired by designs. This is typically what I see the most of whenever we're talking about original designs, and since I have gone through this process myself, I thought that I would share some of my process on how I do it, and hopefully it can help you too. So the first thing that you are going to want to do is get references of the original character. Obviously, for this particular discussion, I'm going to be talking about my Okami cosplay. So the character in the game is a wolf. She is a wolf the entire time. She is a white wolf with red markings and has a floating shield on her back. However, what I did was I still gathered several reference images of the character in her original form. After I have my reference images, looking at the overall design, you want to figure out what is the most important design aspect of that character. And what I mean by that is, what is the specific design that makes that character recognizable? Sometimes it is a specific color scheme or specific armor. When you think of Loki, for example, some aspects that you probably think of are the gold horns that go up, or the overall green and gold aesthetic. Those are the aspects that make that character most recognizable, and those are going to be things that you're going to want to incorporate in your original design. That will both help make sure that the character is recognizable to others, as well as keeping the design grounded. Definitely something that you're going to need to identify pretty early on. For Okami, again, she was a white wolf with red markings, so I knew right off the bat that I was going to be in a white something with mirroring a lot of the red markings that she has. Next up is to choose an overall theme for your original design. What I mean by theme is you can do a re-envision a character from a specific culture or time period. So I have seen some very interesting Marvel characters re-envisioned in historical clothing. These are great ways to sort of dip your toe in to creating an original design, but you have a lot of source material that you'd be able to pull from so that it can help reduce the amount of decisions that you may have to make. For Okami, it is a game about a Japanese folklore, and the character herself is probably one of the most prominent goddesses in the Shinto religion. So when I was choosing a theme for Okami, I wanted to do something that was very Japanese inspired. So of course I ended up choosing a kimono. Now, I didn't just choose any kimono because I wanted a little more drama, a little more flair. So I actually ended up choosing a specific kimono that is typically only worn on stage for traditional Japanese theater performances. One sort of theme that I've been seeing that's very popular right now is like the Cosplay Met Gala. So they will have a specific theme for the year, and you take a character and you re-envision them in that theme. I think it's one of the coolest things that I've ever heard of, and I really hope that other conventions sort of pick up on this, because it is a really neat way, especially to showcase original designs, which is not something that you see very often. After you've decided essentially what the overall theme is going to be and identified the specific characteristics that make that character stand out, this is where a lot of the research comes in. I highly recommend taking a lot of good notes on different design processes that you may want to implement, as well as if you're able to actually draw out your design. I think that this is a really great way to take a lot of the small pieces and bring them all together, because while you think that you may want a specific design element, you may find that it clashes with the overall design once you put everything together. So as you're researching, say, specific corset stays or corset shapes for a time period that you were trying to mimic, this is a great time to actually take notes about the specific pieces, and that way you can always call back on maybe what a specific thing was called. So definitely do yourself a favor and take a whole bunch of notes. One aspect of design, which can be a bit hard to say the right way to do it, is how to build or design each piece to make sure the overall design is cohesive. And what do I mean by cohesive? The overall impression is balanced. For example, for my Okami cosplay in particular, there were many instances where I had to stop myself from putting too much on the kimono itself, even though I silk painted all of the zodiac animals onto it and I embroidered the star constellations. It was very important to me that still the overall impression was white with red markings. So I ensured that I didn't make the kimono too busy, which would overall detract from the brush gods or the zodiac animals that I had painted on the kimono itself. So one way that you can ensure that your design overall is cohesive, after you feel that you've gotten it to a good place as far as each of the pieces are, you've drawn it out on a piece of paper, maybe take it to a friend or something like that and ask them if there's any specific areas they think that you can improve. That doesn't mean that you have to take their advice, but sometimes fresh eyes are what's needed to be able to say, oh, well, overall this feels very top heavy, or hey, there's nothing going on, have you thought about doing this? It's a great way to essentially get free ideas that you may want to use in your design. One thing that can be particularly difficult when you're doing specific period pieces, or in my case, pulling from a traditional garment, is feeling that you need to obey all of the rules with that specific garment. Now, ultimately, it is your design and it is inspired by a specific character. It's okay to break the rules, just know that you're breaking them. I typically like to have a pretty good reason for why. One example is the obi that I ended up choosing for my cosplay actually velcros on the side, and I created a fake bow in the back. I did this for a couple of reasons, one of which it helps me be able to get dressed completely by myself as opposed to tying the obi. Typically the specific type of obi tie that is used for the level of formality for the obi that I chose, different levels of formality based off of the width. I actually shortened the obi so that it would be more proportional to my waist, as well as I knew I was going to have a shield on my back, which was going to limit the amount of space that my back had. There wasn't going to be all of this space behind for this big, beautiful, obi knot. So I chose to go with something more low profile so that I knew that it would be able to fit behind my shield and not actually interfere with my prop. The vast majority of the other rules for that specific garment I actually ended up following, mostly because it made no sense to break it. In doing research for Okami, there are so many different traditional Japanese hairstyles that it made it very difficult for me to try and choose one. So what I ended up doing was I found a piece of art that actually depicted the goddess herself, and all of the art from that time period had all of the women with long, straight hair. So, of course, that seems like, just from the outside looking in, that I did it because I was lazy and I don't know how to style wigs very well. It's my weakest skill by far, but it actually had some historical context. Now, an example of breaking some of the rules, I ended up using some kanzashi, or hair ornaments, because I liked the design of them. I did it just because I like it. And you know what? Not a single person said anything bad about it. They thought it was all super cool, and I like them and they're pretty. Now, when you're making an original design, something that is just as important as trying to draw it all out and do all of this research is make a mock-up. What I mean by make a mock-up is actually make the garment in the silhouette that you are trying to do out of cheaper materials. This could be very helpful in a couple of ways. So for Annie, I ended up making another essentially kimono out of just cheap muslin fabric that you can get at any fabric store, or you can buy it online like I do. But I was able to I printed out, and I think I'll probably show a picture. I printed out all of the brush gods, and then I printed them out to scale that I wanted to actually paint them, and then I placed them on different parts of the kimono and drew on with like a fabric marker where I wanted the red designs to be. This helped me ensure that there wasn't one specific part of the kimono that was too busy while other parts were bare, as well as it allowed me to make sure that I wasn't putting any of the animals in a place that was going to eventually be covered up by some of the other red markings or be too close to them. So definitely make a mock-up of your design so that you can ensure that you like the fit, you like the overall silhouette of it on you. And this is a great way for you just to take out a marker, draw some stuff out physically on the piece itself, and then that's where it starts to get exciting. When it's all said and done, original designs can be worked an infinite amount of time. You do not need to stop in one specific area, but at some point you will have to make a decision. You will have to make a decision and say that is what it is and move on to the next. Using the materials that you did earlier for research or for choosing a specific theme will help keep your overall design grounded. If you think I missed any tips that would be helpful, feel free to drop a comment below. Until next time, happy crafting.